It videos me again and change those settings. Okay, is it working? I think this thing works. XML stands for Extensible Markup Language. So just like your other ML things, like HTML, it's a markup language. In a markup language, started out way back in the day, they would print all of these pages for the book, and the publisher or whoever would go through and mark it all up. And they would say things like, this little area should be in bold. Well, they had a special code to mark on that to indicate that this should be in bold. Or these lines should be italicized. They would mark that up. And then the people that were typing, the typesetters, would make those adjustments to that book before it was published. So this markup language has evolved from that manual markup where we were looking at hard copy pieces of paper to an electronic markup language. And with HTML, you guys probably all had the web dev class where you're using HTML to specify, this should be in bold, or here, display this image. So XML is just another markup language. Now, this markup language is designed to store and transport data. So it's not designed to display things like HTML or some of our other markup languages. It's designed to describe data. It's self-descriptive, and it's recommended by W3C, the kind of web consortium group. Now, what do we have? First of all, an XML file is going to contain markup and content. Any markup is going to begin with a less than sign and end with a greater than sign, or an ampersand and a semicolon. So those could be replaced that way. We wouldn't see that very often. Anytime there's strings of characters that are not markup, those characters are part of our content. Now, a tag is that markup that begins with our less than and ends with our greater than. So those diamond brackets. So just like HTML, a starting tag would look like this. This would start section, section. This would be our ending tag. We can have an empty element tag if we just had a carriage return and then a slash greater than symbol. Now, every time we run into a logical document component, we can refer to that as an element. And we can have attribute name value pairs, like this example here. Take a look at this example. Here's our beginning step, and here's our ending step tag. But notice step says it's number 3 before that closing bracket. So this basically says the name of the attribute is step, and the value is 3. We don't have any super complicated ones like that that we have to mess with too much. Now, we have to have an XML declaration, kind of like an HTML declaration at the beginning of our file. It begins that XML document, and it describes information. So you're usually going to see something like this. You can pretty much copy and paste that, or XML declaration. And here's an actual XML file. So take a look at it. It's really self-documenting, right? Just like they were wanting. So when we look at this, we can see, first of all, the root element is at the beginning and ending of our file. So this is a menu list, right? So that root element only occurs once at the beginning and is closed at the end. Within our menu list, we have individual menu items. Here's our begin tag and end tag for a menu item. For each menu item, we have a title of that item, a description, a price, how many we have available, we've gone in the whole on these, and how many we've sold. So both of these, I think we've sold more than what we had, right? So notice how the XML file is really easy to read. Yes, Al?
Is that negative number on there for a reason? I mean, if it's not available, -6.
It's just because it's test data. It's just test data. But I was just clicking on, just went in the hole. Should have had error checking on it, huh? Somebody's program just let that go in the hole like that and should have said, hey, can't go negative. If Everybody's smiling like, okay, we'll add that. Point out the flaws, but yes, that's a flaw. We wouldn't expect to see that because it's not accurate.
Yeah,
So
and I
it's,
like
it's
that one. How can you have?
it's because the program didn't keep it from happening.
There's 4 ordered, but you haven't made them yet. So you're in the hole.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. There we go. Yeah, good.
They're still
Good.
on the freezer.
We ordered those.
Or they're still on.
They're coming. It was on Prime thing. They should be here in 15 minutes.
Oh, it could also be the space.
Yeah, it's negative. The problem.
But
But so we invented all these tags, right, for this XML file. We can make them say whatever we want. So whatever we want to call this title, if we didn't want to call it title, we could call it something else. So that's what's neat about XML. It's self-documenting because we can make those tags be whatever we want. And then when we create our file, we've got them in there. So what do we need to do to read an XML file? Well, we're going to start out with the using, because we've got to use the XML class libraries for C#. And then there's actually lots of classes available to process XML files. So one class type that's available is the XDocument or XML document class. If I am going to read an XML file using that XDocument class, I'm going to connect the physical file name using the XDocument load method. So when this is encountered, the runtime system is going to go try to find this menu items.xml file in our bin debug folder, read that in, and it's going to load in pretty much that whole file. The XML Reader is just a little bit different. The XML Reader is going to use the create method to connect to a physical file. Again, if we don't put that full path name, it's going to find it in our bin debug folder, and we can use that XML file. Now, in Visual Studio, I use the Visual Studio XML editor to print this screen print of this file. So there's a really nice XML editor there in Visual Studio. When you type the name of the begin tag, it'll automatically pop the end tag in, ready for you to type your data in. So it's not nearly as difficult as it is to use Notepad or something like that. You can use whatever tool you want to create it, but there are a lot of XML editors that are available now. You can find some really fancy ones online. So this is how we would read it. What I want you guys to do, I know you've got lots of work going on, but I want you to be thinking about, for that book application, what would your XML file need to look like? What tags will you need? And take a look at the XML Reader and XML Document classes and decide which one looks easier to use. So one thing I want to mention, if I were going to create a menu item class, which I would want to, my menu item class would have these same data elements, right? These would be my fields and my properties, because I would want that to tie to that XML file. So my class is going to be pretty close to that. So as you're considering what you need for your library app, be thinking about how that will become your book class or whatever it is you want it to be. Now on Canvas, when you look at our lesson here for the week, let me scroll down. This is the PowerPoint we were just looking at. I'm going to bring up this info link. In the W3 Schools explanation for XML, I'm going to click on that and bring it up. Be careful with this, okay? Because W3 Schools has like an XML certification. You don't need to know that much. So don't get off on W3 Schools XML tutorial, because if you notice, you could be here for a really, really long time learning all sorts of things about XML that are way more than what you actually need. So look at all of it. Ah, you don't need all that. So be careful there.
Manual.
yeah, you don't need all that. It's a whole giant book. So what about this one? C#.NET tutorials It says it's a good tutorial with sample code. Well, this morning, when I looked at this, it popped up with a little "you must pay" thing. So be aware, it's a good tutorial, but it knows it's good, and it is periodically. Now, it's not doing it right now, so maybe they haven't fully implemented their "we're going to make people pay" firewall, but it looks like they're going to. So this tutorial is available, but it could become costly at any moment. You should just be able to walk through the next thing on it. Oh, there it is. So see what you find and see.
I wonder if you could use
I think you can get around it, but yeah, just be aware. I don't want you to pay. Do what, Alex? Do it.
probably use like nav blocker.
Yeah, see what you could do, because I do not want you to pay. But it does have some good information. The next one, .NET Pearls, they talk about the XML Reader and XML Writer. And I hope just from looking at these, you're starting to get a little bit of feeling that the document class is harder to work with, because it is. Now, in this one, they're saying if you start an XML Reader, you can use a while loop to read from your reader. And this while loop then will continue as long as you're being able to read data. And then as you read data, you can check to see what the name is of the item. And that name is going to be that XML name of the data. So they're looking for which line says pearls and which line says article. So you're going to be investigating, interrogating that file, looking for those names that you gave your different data elements. And then again, there's some more .NET Pearl links for writing your XML files. Again, we'll just need to update that one element. So that'll be something that we're working towards. Okay, so I wanted to just give you a little introduction to XML files so that if you had time, you could get started on that assignment, or at least thinking about how you wanted to design it. On Wednesday, after you guys give all of your code walkthroughs, we'll talk about writing the XML files and updating them, and we'll do some sample code so that you can try some things. So any questions before we break for lab stuff? Everybody good, good, good? All right, I'm excited to see everything next time. The Explore OTC thing on Friday was a real killer, and I know Tiffany sent out a message about that, which was really nice. But we spent most of the week last week getting ready for it, and then all day Friday being there. So if you've noticed I'm getting behind on something, I am, and I'll working to get you guys' grades are #1 right now, so you're behind. So I will get them as soon as possible. But any other questions? Good, you got it? All right, I'm gonna break. Before we do, I keep saying that, we need to readjust some groups. What do you guys want to do? We get some people out of our way. Oh yeah, we got one group that's down way small.
Do you want that information on the screen right now?
I don't care. That right there you can see. You'll see them anyways. I just want to see who is all left in our groups. Most of our groups are good. We just lost people out of the same groups. Okay, so here's what we've got. Here's our people that we've lost. So study group 2, Jay and Keegan, is too small. We are going to combine them with study group 1. How does that sound to everybody? I think that will be our least disruptive, since groups 3 and 4 haven't really had any changes. Does that look good? Okay, so that puts Keegan and Jay in with Jonathan, Alex, and Ethan. That'll be a really good group. You guys will be able to work together then, I think, that way. So, look good? You got it? All right, great. Let me know if you run into any problems.